Genshin dropped this trailer at midnight, so guess who's not sleeping tonight? Me, I'm not sleeping. I haven't even breathed properly since watching it. The lore bombs in this teaser were absolutely insane, so without further ado, this is Minsleff's initial thoughts and lore breakdown of the Teyvat chapter interlude teaser, The God's Limits. Let's start with one of the biggest lore drops, the 4 Shining Shades. This is the first time we've actually seen them. The 4 Shades are divine envoys of the heavenly principles: Nibirius, the ruler of life; Renova, the ruler of death; Istaroth, the ruler of time; and Asmodee, the ruler of space. It's implied that the heavenly principles either created or split them off from itself, making them extensions of divine will, and they're even more powerful than the 7 Archons. First up, Nibirius, the ruler of life. After the war with the dragon sovereigns, Nibirius took over the primordial sea and created Egeria, the first Hydro Archon, to replace the Hydro Dragon at that time. Later on, Egeria, creator of the Oceanids, gave them humanoid forms so they could live among humans. But Celestia didn't like that. They saw that as a sin. As punishment, Celestia prophesied that Fontaine would be dissolved for her actions. We don't know if Nibirius was involved in her punishment, but it was ordered by Celestia. At some point after the cataclysm, Nibirius' heart was discovered by Rhine-Daughter and Albedo. Rhine-Daughter is one of the 5 sinners of Conria and a genius alchemist behind creations like Durin, Albedo, Elenas, and the Rift Wolves, just to name a few. She's also part of the Hexencircle Witch Coven. After finding Nibirius' heart, Rhine-Daughter disappeared, leaving Albedo with a message to uncover the truth of this world. At some point, she devoured the heart and fused with Nibirius. Rhine-Daughter's design now reflects that merge and the concept of life and creation. Their shared realm of consciousness is full of DNA strands. She has chromosomal eyes, a gold X for Rhine-Daughter, and an indigo upside-down Y for Nibirius. Nibirius complains about being used as a power source, saying, "Although merging with you has stripped me of agency, I shall still continue to voice my disapproval." And what's really weird is that Istaroth and Renova tolerate her. Maybe Nibirius had no choice but to merge with someone to survive. Was her heart the only piece left of her? Was Rhine-Daughter the only compatible host? Speaking of Renova tolerating her, Renova, the ruler of death, was introduced in the Natlan Archon quests. She helped establish the Night Kingdom and assisted Xbalanque, the first Pyro Archon, in building Natlan's divine laws that let anyone become an Archon through the pilgrimage of the Sacred Flame. She also assisted the Lord of the Night in creating the Night Kingdom. But Renova also cursed the full-blooded Conrians with immortality during the Cataclysm, condemning them to rot for eternity. She cursed everyone, even if only a few were truly responsible. In the trailer, Istaroth warns Renova that someone is watching her. Renova, all smug, says, "Whose gaze could pierce this far?" And there we see Gigachad Piero, director of the Fatui, standing there like he's about to clock her tea. Rhine-Daughter thinks he might have moved on from his old obsessions, but let's be real, he definitely hasn't. That was not the gaze of a man who lets go of his grudges. Before this, Renova's presence was just ominous red eyes in the sky. Now we see her full form, and her wings are identical to the statue of the omnipresent god in Inazuma, which means A has some explaining to do. As the Electro Archon, A is the god of eternity. She claims that eternity is closest to the heavenly principles, but that seems contradictory, doesn't it? The 4 Shades represent the structural forces of the world, the rules of the world. They are the aspects of the heavenly principles. Everything in existence is shaped by them. Life begins, time moves, space shifts, and death comes for all. For any of these forces to function, change is necessary, which makes them the complete opposite of a still unchanging eternity. But A, in her grief, rejects that change. After losing her sister and friends, she turns to eternity, an illusion of permanence. No change, no loss, no decay. A state where life is frozen, never growing or aging. Death is denied. Time is paused. Space remains untouched. Eternity is stasis, and to A, that stasis is sacred. Stasis is stillness. Stillness is sleep. The heavenly principles is asleep. Therefore, A's eternity is a mirror of the heavenly principles' sleep, and that's why she considers eternity to be the closest to the heavenly principles. But the reason A retreated into eternity was because she experienced great loss. So this begs the question, what did the heavenly principles lose to fall so deeply asleep? Back to Renova. Let's take a quick look at her design. Renova's eye features a 7-pointed star, possibly a heptagram. At first glance, it might reference the 7 archons, but its meaning might run deeper. The heptagram appears in several religious and esoteric traditions. In alchemy, the heptagram is seen on the robe of the Archangel Michael when featured on the Temperance Tarot card. In Hermetic alchemy, tempering reflects the principle from one do all things originate, by one are all mediated. In other words, everything comes from a singular source, similarly to how the shades all originate from the heavenly principles. In Kabbalist Judaism, it symbolizes the relationship between the infinite God and the finite universe. Kabbalah is a type of esoteric mysticism, Book of Esoteric Revelations, anyone? That explores how the divine connects to the world. Gnosticism, another major inspiration for Genshin, has similar themes. In Islam, the heptagram represents the first 7 verses of the Quran. In Catholicism, it's been used as a protective symbol to keep evil away. But in Renova's case, the heptagram is upside down, which usually means the opposite of something holy. Flipping a sacred symbol often suggests rebellion or corruption. Even her name Renova is a reference to Renove, a demon from the Lesser Key of Solomon, a real-world book that lists the names and ranks of demons. Many of Genshin's gods and archons are named after beings from this text. Because I'm too tired to think about a better transition, let's talk about Istaroth, the ruler of time. Probably my favorite design out of all the shades. Istaroth was worshipped in both Mondstadt and Enkanomiya before and even during the reign of the 7 archons. Ironically, over time, Istaroth was forgotten, and Barbatos came to be seen as Mondstadt's sole deity. Yet among the shades, Istaroth seems the most involved in Teyvat's history. She protected Enkanomiya after its fall and may have guided Barbatos during the early days of his rule. She assisted in the growth of the sacred Sakura tree in Inazuma. After Enkanomiya was cast into darkness, their prayers went unanswered by the heavenly principles and the other shades, but only Istaroth continued to respond. Devotees known as the scribes of Tokuyo Ukami thoroughly recorded the passage of time, preserving history in her name. Interestingly, the dangling pieces in her halo resemble clock hands and ink pen nibs. I don't know, I feel like I'm just seeing things at this point from how sleepy I am, possibly symbolizing her role in timekeeping and written historical record. This might connect to the moment where Renova asks her, "Why did you bestow history upon them?" To which Istaroth replies, "I had to find some way to pass the time." She could be referring to humanity or the twins who were separated at the beginning of Genshin's story, hinting at her deeper role in shaping Teyvat's timeline. Speaking of separating twins, the unknown god finally has a name: Asmodee, the ruler of space. We learn she's gone missing, may have switched sides, and possibly loves her new master more than herself, which is very suspicious. Here's my take on the timeline based on what we learned from this trailer. 500 years ago, as Celestia prepared to strike Khaenri'ah, the nation seemed to anticipate the attack. The sibling was meant to lead Khaenri'ah to victory, but during the cataclysm, they left to awaken the traveler from sleep and urged them to flee Teyvat. Before they could escape, they were stopped by Asmodee, the Sustainer, and forcibly separated. The traveler only reawakens months before the game begins, with Paimon as their sole companion. The Shades hold regular meetings, but following her encounter with the twins, Asmodee goes missing. The other Shades suspect she's switched sides, now opposing the heavenly principles, and believe she has a new master, one she may love more than herself. 2 possibilities for Asmodee's new master come to mind at this initial moment. The first is Nibelung, the ancient dragon king who once led the 7 sovereigns, introduced the abyss to Teyvat, and fell to the heavenly principles in the Great War of Vengeance. If he survived in spirit, claiming the ruler of space would be the ultimate strike against the heavenly principles. The second suspect is far closer: the Traveler. During the Space and Time Archon quest, Paimon insists she lost the Traveler, yet Asmodee somehow overhears the twins' private exchange. A possible theory is that Paimon and Asmodee are fragments of the same being, cast down after separating the twins, stripped of name and power, then rescued by the very descender she condemned. What began as divine judgment may have turned into personal loyalty, even genuine love? If Paimon is Asmodee, we have no way of knowing how much of her former life she actually remembers. Either scenario means Asmodee has broken faith with Celestia, a breach made easier since the heavenly principles is asleep. Around the same time, Tsaritsa plans to strike, and no one is more eager to see those plans set in motion than Piero, the jester. Once a royal mage of Conria, he witnessed its fall, endured Renova's curse of immortality, and abandoned the foundational principles of this world to build the Fatui with the Tsaritsa. His monologue at the end of the trailer is insane. He ridicules the idea that a god's gaze is a blessing. It is said that when mortals look directly upon the gods, they invite wrath and retribution. He brushes this notion off because he's already witnessed worse. He ponders, if merely gazing upon a god brings death, then what must it cost to kill one? He and the Tsaritsa declare even the gods have their limits, transforming fear of the divine into the will to defy it. They're basically gonna try to kill the heavenly principles while it sleeps. According to the Pale Star Edict, the Tsaritsa has summoned all harbingers to convene in Nodcry, and surprisingly, it's the Fatui's mission to locate Columbina, the missing third harbinger. In the final moments of the trailer, we glimpse her standing in a field of white flowers, glitching like Arlecchino and her idol. It's an eerie image, and the fact that the Fatui are explicitly ordered to keep the Frostmoon Scions away from her might hint at something deeper. I put this theory at the end because it might have the most copium. I'm basically relying on more assumptions and loose connections rather than solid confirmed lore. As I'm writing this, it's 4 a.m. Just keep that in mind. The Frostmoon Scions, also called Moon Children, worship the Frost Moon, one of Teyvat's 3 ancient lunar goddesses. According to legend, these 3 moon sisters were some of the original gods of the world before Teyvat was taken over by the heavenly principles. Their fall shattered the balance of the world, and with them, the Seelies fell too. The Seelies, once angels, were cursed after 2 beings known as the First Angel and the Voyager fell in love. They lost their forms, voices, and wisdom, becoming drifting wisps that lead us to treasure. But maybe not all Seelies degraded equally. When you guide Seelies back to their pedestals, it's called their Seelie Court, a name that echoes the idea of a royal court. Records of Jueyun talk about a lunar palace, and in a palace, there's a royal court, a Seelie Court. Perhaps those who once belonged to the nobility of that Seelie court held enough lunar essence to resist full decay. Columbina may be one of those exceptions. Unlike the tiny Seelie we guide back to pedestals, Columbina retains a full humanoid form, complete with angel wings. The finale in the Deep Galleries artifact set mentioned how with the powers of the Frost Moon, the First Angel and the Voyager once spun fallen moonlight into flawless flesh and blood for their creations. So already there's an association between a high-status angel and one of the moon goddesses. Dottore turned Scaramouche into a near god by fusing him with a Gnosis, proof that the Fatui are actively experimenting with how to sustain broken or artificial divinity. It's possible the Tsaritsa discovered Columbina as a fading Seelie wisp and found a way to stabilize her original form. But her glitching at the end of the trailer may be a visual clue that that form isn't permanent, and her hold on it is beginning to slip. In the Song of the Welkin Moon event, it's said that from the ashes of the shattered 3 moons, a new moon would rise, one that would spin the wheel of fate anew. Skirk herself mentions that while 2 of Teyvat's moons are shattered, their fragments drifting behind the full sky, the Frost Moon remains intact but lifeless. Its will still lingers, waiting for something or someone to awaken it. So, what if Columbina is that new moon that will carry on the will of the Frost Moon? If the angels fell when the moons fell, there's a parallel there, and it might stand to reason that an angelic being could serve as the vessel for the Frost Moon's lingering will. Columbina and the Frost Moon combined make the new moon. And that would explain why the Fatui are so adamant about keeping the Frost Moon Scions away. If the Frost Moon Scions knew what Columbina could potentially become, if they recognize her as the vessel of their lost goddess, they might try to reclaim her, thereby interfering with whatever the Tsaritsa plans next. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed this brief analysis. I'm your sleepy lorekeeper Minzliff, and I'm going to bed now. Good night.